right. Hey, I need you to stand up. I know you love to do that. We're in James chapter 1. Got one verse that I want to read to you that fits with what we're talking about today. James 1:19 says, "Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry." All right, you can be seated with that in mind. That's what we're talking about today. I got the wheel of fortune here, the wheel of emotion, and we'll spin it. Oh, look at that. It landed on anger. That's what we're talking about today, anger. Hey, how many of you guys know someone who has an anger problem? Raise your hand. Don't point at them. We all know somebody. I won't ask you if the person is you, but we all know somebody who struggles a little bit with that, some worse than others. And I'll just, full disclosure, I've been not looking forward to this one because there's times I feel like out of all the emotions, this is the one I struggle with the most. And I know that goes back to my childhood, the way I was raised. My mom and dad were both angry a lot. Not so much my mom. My dad was just angry a lot, and he transferred that to me. And really, there's no excuse for getting angry over letting other people get you angry. Except, and it's not an exception, but my only thing is I have 4 kids living at home, right? I have 3 teenagers. Can I get some sympathy from anybody? Teenagers. I have 3 teenagers at home, and I don't know if you've ever tried to take a road trip across country with 4 kids, 3 teenagers, and a 10-year-old. If you ever want to see how patient you are, I will give you my kids, and you load them up in the back of your car, and you can drive 22 hours with them and see how you do. And it was one of those things. Like, again, this is like, for me, I don't think I told you guys this when we got back, but it was like a catch-22 for me because we want our kids, like they all 4 have phones now. And we're like, okay, on the way there and back in the car, we're going to be in the car for a long time. We don't want you on your phone the whole time. So we started out, we were like, okay, let's just, no phone time for a while. And that lasted about an hour maybe. And I was like, get on your phones because I can't deal with you anymore. Like, here, take your phones back and leave me alone. Anyways, so I don't know. That's just me. I know I'm not the only one, but whenever I get up here to preach a message about anger, God's like, or my wife's like, yeah, hey, let's talk about you for a minute. All right. And this is insider baseball, but anyone who's ever got up and preached the message, or if you've ever had to give a talk, I talked about that last week, how terrifying that is. But some of you guys are recovery group leaders or life group leaders, and like in the past, no, I mean I have. Whenever I do a sermon on something, God tests me that week, right? If I'm teaching on marriage that week. Me and my wife are probably going to have a fight that week. And it's I don't even know why. I think Satan's behind all that, but it's just weird. So you're going to be tested on the material that you're going to teach, and I'm tested on this all the time. So let's go back to this and look at this. This is a great verse. You need to memorize this when it says, understand this. He says, you must be quick to listen. These are 3 things that are just so important to life. You need to be quick to listen, slow to speak. Those right there, quick to listen, slow to speak. I could say amen right now, and let's go. Let's just go and apply these in our lives this week, and at your job, in your family. Be quick to listen, slow to speak. All right, because I don't know if that's you or not. If you have a problem just speaking before you've heard the whole situation, but you need to be slow to speak and then slow to get angry. And here's what he says, verse 20. Look at it. He says, because human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So God does desire that we live righteous lives, and you can't do it when there's human anger involved. And I want you to understand, and a lot of you guys know this, there are times to get angry. And that's why he says be slow to angry. Don't fly off the handle. Don't be quick-tempered. Don't be hot-tempered. But there are times to get angry. There are some things in society that should get your blood boiling. But we need to be in control of our emotions. We need to not be out of control, right? We don't want to just be, I'm having a bad day, so you fly off the handle, or you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or, and you're throwing a temper tantrum today. Or maybe you're just not getting your way about something. And so we have to be very careful. And that's what this whole series is all about, is learning to try to, and this is a journey for all of us, to be in control of our emotions. Whatever it is, we don't want to let our emotions get out of hand. We want to try to control them. So in your notes, I just sat down this week as I was preparing for this and doing some research, and why do we get angry? And I could tell you reasons why I get angry, why I think other people get angry, but there's scientific reasons, and I boiled them down to two in my research, these two right here. The number one, here's why we get angry, is a violation of expectations. And as I was reading about this one, some people just talk about how there's an expectation about how society is supposed to go, and when it doesn't go that way, you have some expectations and they're not met, and so you get angry about that. Like if somebody, doesn't return their shopping cart and the wind catches it and it comes and hits you. Like that's just a societal norm. You're supposed to put up your shopping cart, right? Can I get an amen? Does that bother anybody else? Stuff like that just gets on my nerves. When I see that, I'm like, so I have a video. I have several videos we're going to watch. These are Exhibit A. This one's Exhibit A on, but here's the second one. The first one is the violation of expectations, and the second one is the blockage of goals. And so whenever you're not being able to achieve your goals and someone's standing in your way, that creates anger, or something that creates anger. Now, there's a science behind it, and I'm not going to stand up here and pretend like there's a lot of words I can't pronounce. So I studied this, and I was like, what's the science behind getting angry? And there really is a science, and some of you guys have studied this better than I have, and it has to do with, I can't pronounce it, the amygdala. That it's in your brain. So whenever something makes you angry, it triggers that, and you have a bunch of chemicals, things that I can't pronounce, and that gets released into your brain. And then what I found, everyone talks about this, how it's called the prefrontal cortex is in the front of your brain, and that's supposed to kick in and keep you from murdering people. You know what I mean? Or kick in and go, okay, I want to ram this person's car, but I'm not going to. And what I found is that there's a lot of people that their prefrontal cortex is damaged, and they just, some of you know what I'm talking about. And I mean really damaged. I read about one guy who this was like in the 1930s or 40s, and he got in an accident, and like a rod went through his, like right up to here, and it went right through the prefrontal cortex, and as a result, this guy became a murderer because he didn't have the ability to stop his anger. You know what I mean? So anyways, but here's the interesting thing about that, and I'm going to come back to this part a little bit later. In my research on this, what I found that is in the first 2 seconds, like it all happens in 2 seconds. So something happens to you, and all of those chemicals kick in the first 2 seconds, which is why one of the best solutions for anger is to count to 10. That's what they say. Everybody's heard that before. If you get angry, count to 10, because all of that stuff happens in the first 2 seconds, and if you can withstand just the first 2 seconds, you might be able to just get out of this without killing somebody, right? And so there's a science behind it, and then whenever we lose it like that and we say stuff that we regret, or we do something that we regret and can't take back, it affects our relationship. In fact, I want you to write this down. When we want to control our anger because it affects our relationships with others and with God. And it does. And I know people that I really don't want to be around too much because they're just mad all the time, right? And then it affects our relationship with God, and that goes back to verse 20 of the passage we talked about, James 1:20. What does it say? It says that this does not, human anger doesn't produce the righteousness God desires, okay? Now, God is okay with righteous indignation. We all know that. Jesus got angry. He had a righteous indignation. But let's not confuse. Let's not pretend like every time we get angry, that's a righteous thing. Just because somebody cuts you off and you want to strangle them, and you're like, well, Jesus would have probably done that. No, he probably wouldn't have, And so we just have to be really careful about that because it does affect our relationships. Let's go. I'm going to try to use this thing because I have a lot of pictures I want to show. Let me see if I can advance this. You guys remember this? I grew up with this one. I was born in 74, so the original Hulk series, the Incredible Hulk. I don't like all these new ones, but this is what he said, right? He goes, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And then he gets angry and turns into a Hulk and starts breaking stuff and hurting people and all that. He becomes a different person, which is what you and I do whenever we lose control of our anger. We become a different person. We become a person that we don't recognize or that other people don't recognize. But if you're not careful, that will be you. Like, that'll be a normal part of your life, and people won't want to be around you. I also heard, are they making a new Hulk movie? There's like a Hulk, a female Hulk. Of course there is. There's got to be, with everything that's going on, there's got to be a female Hulk. And when I heard about that, I thought about this right here, this passage. No, oh wait, I don't have the thing. Let's see. The Hulk, let's go to the next one. I'm going to let you guys do it. This is Proverbs 21:9. Have you guys read this before? I used to quote this to my wife right after we got married. She didn't like it. But it says, it's better to live in the corner of an attic than with a quarrelsome wife in a lovely home. And that's what, I know it's not just white women that they're talking about there, but people who are angry all the time, people don't want to be around them. And so it's better to live in the corner of an attic than with a Hulk wife in a lovely home. Let's go back to this back to this one up here. You guys, I don't know if you like Skillet or not. Skillet's one of my favorite bands. I was talking to somebody that doesn't go to church the other day, and they were like, I didn't know Skillet was a Christian band. And I was like, yeah, the whole time. This dude, John Cooper's a solid Christian. But they got a song called Monster, which usually whenever we're in the Halloween parade, I blast that song, and I can see people bobbing their heads and jamming out to Monster. But it just talks about how we all have a monster inside of us. And we do. You do. I promise you. Everyone has a side to you that you're not proud of. We all do. It's because we all have a human nature, a sinful nature, and it's always the struggle that we want to keep that in check. We want to keep the monster hidden, right? Because if you're not proactive about it, and some people are worse than others. Some of you guys have a worse anger problem than others. Some of you guys by nature are just chill and mellow and laid back, and other people are high-strung. And you just have to know that about yourself and keep the monster in check. Let's see. I came across this right here. Oh, let me set this up, because back to the Hulk thing. Whenever people say, like, what was the Hulk's phrase? He said, "Don't make me angry, because you won't like me when I get angry." In other words, he's saying, it's your fault. You're going to turn me into a Hulk, and I just don't buy into that. The Bible doesn't support that. God is not okay with that. Because if you turn into the Incredible Hulk because of what somebody says or what somebody does to you, you are now not in control of your emotions. They are. Does that make sense? And so this right here, this is a quote from this dude way back, says, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. And so why do you want to give that power to people? And I've probably said that in the past too, that you made me angry, or so-and-so made me angry, or this made me angry. Well, you let that, okay? I need everybody to look at me. This is on you, and it's on me when we get angry because of what somebody says or does. We allowed that. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but you have to understand that you're allowing that and that you don't have to allow that. Anyways, let's look at this Ecclesiastes 7:9, because both of those clips were where they got angry that somebody else said something to them, and they allowed themselves to act out in rage. And here's what Ecclesiastes 9 says. This is from the Message. It says, "Don't be quick to fly off the handle. Anger boomerangs. You can spot a fool by the lumps on his head." And that's true. And if you fly off the handle, you might just get your butt whipped by Bob Barker. You know what I mean? That's what you got to be careful about. And so let's talk about this now. Let's talk about how can we keep our anger in check, because that's what we all want to know, right? I want to know that. I sometimes need help with that. And so let's talk about how we can keep our anger in check. And you just leave it right there for a second. I asked Remo Ann if she had a mood ring that I could borrow. And she did. And so I have, this is one thing. You might want to consider wearing a mood ring. I put this mood ring on this morning, and it's supposed to change colors when you have different emotions. I think it's bright red whenever you're angry. This one just stayed black. I don't know what that says about me, but I'm just saying that's a mood ring. So let's talk about this. Let's get into this, because I really want to help you. And I think God wants to help all of us with our anger problems. And so go to the first one. Here's the first one I want to talk about is boundaries, okay? And it's important for us to have healthy boundaries in our lives. And so under this, there's two different things. Letter A, go to the letter A. Letter A is we need to avoid angry people. Okay, so part of it is us keeping ourselves in check and not becoming an angry person. But it's also the other part is staying away from angry people. And here's what Proverbs 22:24 says. It says, don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. I thought that was interesting. Now, letter B, let's talk about this. Avoid people who intentionally make you angry, okay? This is so important. This is whenever I talk about anger. So there's two parts to what I'm talking about. There's me keeping my anger in check, but then it's also avoiding people who are angry, but then it's also avoiding people who make me angry. Come on, everyone in here knows this. Like there's nobody right now, and I'm not talking about anybody specific, but I've had in my life people who really enjoyed trying to get me riled up. You ever had somebody like that? Somebody who just enjoys, it's almost like a game to them, to try to push your buttons and get you riled up. And so what I've found is I'm just like, oh, you know what I can do? I can cut them out of my life. You know what I mean? Unless you're married to them. Like, that's really hard to do, or they're your kids. But other than that, there's people that I'm just like, and that was such an epiphany for me. Like, I don't have to have this person in my life. They just bother me. Like, they just always pushing my buttons, and they do it on purpose. And I was like, I can just cut them out. And that's a biblical thing. So let me show you. I'm gonna try to work this thing for a few minutes, because I've got a bunch of memes. I've posted these on social media recently. And maybe you've seen them, but some of you guys, these will speak to you. Let's look at some of these memes. These are just things I pulled off the internet. No is a complete sentence. Some of you guys have a big problem with saying no, and you'll say no to somebody, and they'll be like, right? Kids do that with their parents. Like, they want something, and you say no, and you have to. But when you're talking about adults, if somebody's trying to manipulate you or take advantage of you, just remember, no is a complete sentence. Here's one. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to wave bye-bye to anyone who doesn't respect them without apology. And this is the thing that I've learned in the last several years, just without apology. Here's another one. If you're offended by my boundaries, then you're probably one of the reasons I need them. Come on, seriously. Think about it. Here's one. Walls keep everybody out. Boundaries teach them where the door is. I'm telling you, everyone needs boundaries in our life. There's toxic people. There's people that are not good in your life, and you need to have boundaries for these people. Whatever you're willing to put up with is exactly what you will get. It's true. You get what you're willing to put up with. A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. That was from Toby Mac. I set boundaries not to offend you, but to respect myself. And honestly, this is what I found about myself and about other people. To the extent that you respect yourself, you will set boundaries. People who refuse to have boundaries with people and they let people walk all over them, it just shows you that they don't respect themselves. They don't understand their self-worth, and they don't, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know that they're a child of God, and that God doesn't expect you to let people walk all over you. Stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. I'll post all of these later, or if you want to take pictures now, you can. Some of you guys. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who are benefiting from you having none. Yep. Boundaries. If someone throws a fit because you set boundaries, it's just more evidence that the boundary is needed. love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious, and you get to decide how to use them. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. These are all, man, this is just great advice. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. Yep. And then this one, cutting someone completely off from your life is sometimes necessary for you to feel peace, or for your peace. Don't feel guilty about it. Okay, I thought that was it. If you invite someone into your home and they start breaking things and insulting your decor, you don't have to hate them, but you wouldn't invite them into your home anymore. Boundaries are doing the same thing, except your home is your mind, your home is your heart, your home is your time and your life. Uninvite the guests who don't know how to treat your home with respect. Okay, so I hope that helped you. I mean, when I come across these, man, I'm just like, sometimes it just gives me permission, because sometimes, just like some of you guys, you feel so guilty about doing some of these things. You have somebody in your life that always tries to rile you up, or they're just toxic in your life, and you're like, I don't really want to cut them out of my life. You feel bad, but you can't feel bad, because it's you have to worry about your own sanity. So, all right, I have this video. This is this one's been going around social media, and whenever I hear it, everyone's got a different variation of it, like on TikTok and others. But I love the message of it, and it's so funny to me. Just go ahead and let's watch this one.
You wanna argue? I can't argue with you. You mad? I can't argue with you. No. Look at you. Look at you. You mad? Look at you. You big man. I'm happy. Leave me alone. I'm happy.
Sway.
Leave me alone.
All right, I love that one. Because, right, I said in the very first week that the goal of controlling our emotions, we want to be happy. We want to be people who are full of joy. And so what we have to do is look at anything that takes away from that, and you got to be ruthless about it and remove it, and don't feel bad about it. And so a lot of times that includes avoiding toxic people. All right, so that's number one. Now, the first one is just about learning boundaries. Number two, the second way that we can learn to control our anger is we need to learn the triggers, okay? And go to this next one. Go to this next meme. This quote, your triggers, I don't know who said this, but your triggers are your responsibility. It isn't the world's obligation to tiptoe around you. And so everyone in here, whether it's anger or whatever emotion that you struggle with, there are triggers. There are things that trigger it. And like we're talking about today with anger, sometimes it's a person, sometimes somebody says the wrong thing to you, sometimes it's just a thing that keeps happening. But you got to know what your triggers are, because if you can identify what they are, oftentimes you can avoid them, okay? Number three is you need to have a healthy release. And what I mean by that is, when I tell you this, everyone in here knows what I'm talking about. So there really are two ways to deal with your rage or your anger, and it's something makes you mad. There's two extremes. One is the person who just stuffs it down and doesn't ever deal with it, right? And you know what happens with those people. The people who stuff it down are the ones that have health problems, like it can cause heart disease, you have stress, you have high blood pressure, you're angry, but you don't show it, and you just stew internally, and that's not healthy for you, okay, to just stuff it down. And then sometimes those people will absolutely just explode, when they've had enough. And then other people just are on the other extreme, just outbursts all the time. Somebody cuts you off, or someone says something, someone looks at you wrong, and they're just blah, 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 and you don't want to be either one of those extremes. You want to understand that you have anger issues sometimes, but then you got to figure out how to have a healthy release. What can you do? One, in a lot of research that I was doing this week, they said that exercise is a huge thing. They said just getting daily exercise of some sort, just going for a walk, just kind of helps your body, physically helps you feel better and to release some of those toxins in your body. And then the other one is talk to someone. And you know this, I tell you guys all the time, our staff is willing to talk with you. You might need to meet with a counselor regularly, but if you have some major anger problems, you need to talk to somebody. It could just be talking to a friend, but there's something healthy about just venting, something healthy about just it's cathartic to be able to talk about what's going on. Don't stuff it down and don't explode on people. Figure out a way that you can release this in a healthy way. All right, number 4, the fourth thing is this. Discover what the underlying issue is, and this go back to, you might want to talk to a counselor about that, but what I've found is that oftentimes whenever people are exploding on people and going off on people all the time, it's not the issue that's causing the problem. They have some deeper issue going on, and it could all go all the way back to childhood, something they haven't dealt with, but something's going on in this person's life that's causing them to act out like that. All right, so you got to figure that out. Sometimes you can only do that by talking to a counselor. And then number 5, I talked about this earlier. Count to 10. Count to 10. Because the physiological part of it is that these chemicals get released in your brain in 2 seconds. And that's why you see somebody just explode within like 1 or 2 seconds. They just act out and cuss somebody out or throw something. So just go, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to calmly count to 10 and then see if you are still as angry. And then here's the last one, is prayer. Now, I know we're in church, so we were, of course we need to pray. But here's what was interesting. Whenever I was doing a lot of research for this, like secular studies, a lot of them were talking about, here's one of the best ways to handle your anger is by getting exercise and meditation. And these secular studies always talk about meditation. And what they mean is prayer. They're not going to say pray to God, but we know that that's the way God made you. God made you to have connection and fellowship with Him. And so the best thing that we can do is spend time with Him, communing with God through prayer. All right? And so with that, let's all just bow our heads. And we're going to do that right now. And I want to encourage you guys this week. I felt like a lot of this was just academic exercise, but I think it helps. I think it's going to help some of you guys. Some of you guys have been struggling with this for a long time, like just trying to get a handle on it, just trying to get control of my emotions of anger. And anger is a big one because, like I said, it affects your relationship with God and it affects your relationship with other people. And it might be that you need to make a phone call to somebody this week and you need to maybe just apologize and just say, hey, listen, I've been under a lot of stress lately and there's some other things going on that doesn't have anything to do with you. I'm sorry for going off on you. Apologize. Take ownership for the way that you handled certain situations. That goes a long way with people. Just admitting that you blew it, that you kind of handled it the wrong way. I think people will appreciate that. But I want to challenge you this week, okay? This for everyone in here. There's a God in heaven. There's a God that's in this room who loves you, and He knows you better than you know yourself. In fact, He knows why you act out the way that you do. He knows why when we talk about all of these emotions that we struggle with, whether it's fear, whether it's panic and anxiety, anger, whatever negative emotions that we're struggling with, God knows that, and God made you, so He's got the solution. And He doesn't want us to He doesn't want to be the first thing that we do turn to the doctor or medicine. I'm not saying don't do any of those things, but the first thing we should do is go to God in prayer and spend some time with Him. And it might just be that you haven't been doing that lately, that you've just been going, just fast-paced society. And maybe all you need to do is just slow down and spend some time with God. I don't know about you, but right now, my kids start school tomorrow, and there's been a lot of kids going here and there to practice and all this stuff, and it's busy, and it can be chaotic. And I think God sometimes just says, you're too busy. We live in this society where everything's set up for us to go, and God wanted us to take a Sabbath. He created the world in 6 days and said on the seventh day, rest. And so maybe that's what He's saying to you today, is that you need to learn to rest, calm down, get some refreshment for your soul, but I want you